So after Iran fired close to 200 ballistic and hypersonic missiles at Israel, will Israel strike back, and when? And will it be the nuclear infrastructure, the power grid, the seat of power in Tehran? What will Israel do? The world's eyes remain focused on this tinderbox that West Asia is. I'm Gaurav Sawant. The Iran-Israel war is our top focus story. West Asia is very clearly on the edge. Iran fired not one, not two, not 10, but 181 ballistic missiles and cruise missiles and hypersonic missiles at Israel. The situation extremely grim. Some of these missiles were aimed at the air bases where fighter jets were used to target Hassan Nasrallah and the leadership of both Hezbollah and Hamas. The Mossad headquarters was also a target. Both the United States and Israel have said that Iran's airstrikes were an absolute disaster, a failure, and only one Palestinian person was killed, and that too in the West Bank. Israel is now preparing to strike back. The situation extremely grim. Iran has actually issued a hit list or a kill list of top Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Israel is eerily silent on what the response would be and where. But the former Prime Minister of Israel has said that this is an opportunity, once in 50 years, to target the nuclear infrastructure of Iran and take it down to ensure a regime change in Iran as quickly as possible.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Iran enters the war. Firing nearly 200 missiles into Israel on Tuesday. The Middle East conflict is intensifying.
Iran made a big mistake tonight, and it will pay for it. The regime in Iran does not understand our determination to defend ourselves and our determination to retaliate against our enemies. Nasrallah or Mossad didn't understand it. They will understand. Whoever attacks us, we attack them.
If the Zionist regime that has gone crazy is not controlled by America and Europe and wants to continue these crimes or wants to do anything against our sovereignty and territorial integrity, tonight's operation will be repeated several times and all their infrastructure will be targeted.
Nearly 200 missiles fired. Iran used their Fateh-2 hypersonic missile, and the targets were crucial air bases in Israel and the Mossad headquarters. This attack was aimed at overwhelming Israel's aero defense system, making it the biggest Iranian attack on Israel since April. Seven nations in West Asia are now fully embroiled in a multi-front war. But there are three sides to every war: the good, the bad, and the ugly. A glimmer of hope in the absence of fatalities in Israel and Iran. The successful interception of missiles is a big boost for Israel, and its multi-layered defense systems prevented the major loss of life. Iran's attack would force Israel to turn up the heat on their rivals. The IDF's Gaza and Lebanon raids are on in full swing, and this will undermine ceasefire proposals there. Not just that, pressure will reduce on Israel now to halt their offensive. And the ugly impact of war is that Iran's Tuesday retaliation against Israel can lead to a full-blown war. This Iranian attack is the biggest since April on Israel, and the use of the Fateh-2 ballistic missile has triggered alarm. the biggest impact of full-scale war will ultimately be the destabilization of global economies. With Ankit Kumar, Bureau Report, India Today.
So through late last night and all through today, we saw the impact of those missiles, the fact that over 180 missiles were fired. So you had cruise missiles that were being fired, ballistic missiles that were being fired, and a hypersonic missile, 5 times the speed of sound, being fired at Israel. Israel, of course, says almost every missile was either intercepted or fell in an open ground. They say there hasn't been any major losses in Israel. It's not just Israel, but even the United States that intercepted some of these incoming missiles. And Israel has a multi-tiered missile defense shield. We'll talk about that in greater detail. But what's been happening in Iran? There were celebrations on the streets of Iran. Across Iran, there were celebrations, but there's a contrasting image in Iran. One, celebrations. Two, thousands of citizens actually queuing up for oil, queuing up for essentials. And there's a growing concern that if Israel were to target the oil assets of Iran, what would that lead to? We bring you more in this report.
As Iran fired a barrage of missiles at Israel in retaliation to the recent killing of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, the streets of capital city Tehran erupted. People carrying Iranian, Lebanese and Palestinian flags thronged the streets, cheering as news of the missile attack spread.
The fact that Iran was able to defend itself, this was a matter of national pride. The Iranian government was under a lot of public opinion pressure to do something about the repeated Israeli attacks.
The region is teetering on the edge of a full-blown war, with both sides exchanging threats of further aggression. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has moved to a secure location. Iran's Army Chief General Mohammad Bagheri declared that if Israel continues its actions, Iran will launch more powerful operations targeting Israeli infrastructure.
If the Zionist regime that has gone insane is not contained by America and Europe and intends to continue such crimes or do anything against our sovereignty or territorial integrity, tonight's operation will be repeated with much higher magnitude, and we will hit all their infrastructures.
Meanwhile, there is panic among citizens. In Iran, thousands are queuing up for petrol, fearing further disruptions, even as Israel issued a stern warning.
Iran made a big mistake tonight, and it will pay for it. Israel is on high alert, both defensively and offensively, and is preparing a significant retaliatory strike.
The focus is now on Israel's potential targets, with speculation that Iran's lucrative oil facilities could be in the crosshairs. As the international community watches closely, the risk of this conflict spreading throughout the region remains high, with both sides vowing not to back down. Bureau Report, India Today.
And Israel's defense forces continue their offensive against the Hezbollah in Lebanon. And they've successfully targeted some of the tunnels. Like the Hamas tunnels in Gaza, there's a maze of tunnels that Israeli special forces are trying to neutralize before additional ground forces are moved in. Israel appears to be moving forward on an agenda. And that agenda is to ensure that from the Israel-Lebanon border all the way to the Litani River, there is no presence of the Hezbollah, and this is easier said than done. However, this maze of tunnels, it's one of the biggest advantages that Hezbollah has in this terrain, which anyway gives a major advantage to the defender. It's a riverine terrain, it has very narrow valleys. We bring you more in this report.
On 1st October, Israel released footage of what it called Hezbollah's underground infrastructure, or in simpler terms, tunnels. The Israeli army has been carrying out secretive ground operations to destroy these infrastructures in Lebanese villages close to its border for the past 1 year.
One of the buildings that our troops raided, we found proof of this. This is a map that Hezbollah planned to give its terrorists at the time of a wide-scale invasion into the state of Israel, as part of its Conquer the Galilee plan to carry out an October 7th massacre in Israel's north. As you can see on the map, there is a key marking Israeli communities, IDF posts, access roads, and targets for attack. We found this map on one of the compounds that was supposed to be used by thousands of Hezbollah terrorists on the day they carried out their invasion.
The videos filmed on troops' body cameras revealed Hezbollah tunnels under the Lebanese villages. Israel claimed that the tunnels lie across the border from 3 Israeli towns. Tel Aviv now prepares to present its findings and evidence discovered under homes in southern Lebanon to the international community.
Hezbollah planned to launch their October 7th attack from villages across southern Lebanon, where they have been building up their arms capabilities and forces for the last 2 decades. Hezbollah also dug tunnels under homes in these villages close to the border with Israel.
In the wake of ground incursions, IDF ordered the residents of about 30 border villages in South Lebanon to evacuate. It vows to continue with the raids until tens of thousands of uprooted Israelis living near the border can return safely to their homes.
We'll do it as fast as we can, and we will take down the threat. It's a threat next to our border. Any other sovereign country will do the same. This is a murderous terror organization in the size of an army, and we will take care of it. We will push Hezbollah back from border. Our citizens, our civilians in the north should live in safe and security. We'll make it happen.
While it is estimated that the Israel Defense Forces have eradicated roughly 80% of Hamas's tunnels, Hezbollah's tunnels, which have largely remained untouched since the war in Gaza began, are believed to be far more sophisticated and significantly larger. They allow Hezbollah to move large number of missiles and vehicles around southern Lebanon undetected. IDF is now all set to destroy it.
And joining me now on this special broadcast is Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Konnikus of the Israeli Defense Forces, currently a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Jonathan Konnikus, by now the country must have had time to assess the damage in the missile barrage, the attack that took place in the past 24 hours. How extensive is the damage in Israel? What's the extent of the damage, sir?
Yeah, well, that actually is the easy part. Thank you for having me today. That actually is the easy part because that's easy to measure. And the amount of damage is very, very minimal. Most of the incoming ballistic missiles that Iran fired, some 200 of them, were intercepted. And those that did indeed get through our air defenses and exploded, fortunately did not cause any significant loss of life. There was one Palestinian from Gaza who was in Judea and Samaria, and he was killed. But other than that, no loss of life. That's number one. Number two, no significant damage to infrastructure. Definitely no damage to any military sites, Mossad headquarters, IDF, or strategic infrastructure. So all in all, the day after the attack, this massive, unprovoked and largest Iranian missile attack against Israel in history, I think it
Okay.
did not achieve anything for Iran. What it achieved was actually opening up a lot of opportunities and options for Israel now to retaliate against Iran.
Now, former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett called this perhaps the best opportunity in 50 years to target Israel and to take out its nuclear infrastructure. What are Israel's options? How will Israel respond in your military appreciation?
Yeah, so it really boils down to what is the Israeli strategy, as in what does Israel want to achieve long term, and how well will this strategy be coordinated with the US and other Western and regional powers. If Israel wants to bring about the demise of the Iranian regime, then that's a different set of targets and a different set of action. If Israel wants to crumple the Iranian war economy and make it difficult for Iran to continue to pump money and weapons into the hands of terrorists all over Western Asia, then that's a second set of targets. If Israel wants to take care of the menace of Iranian nuclear weapons, then that is a third set of targets. And thankfully, Israel has the capacity to strike these different targets, and it really matters what Israel wants to achieve and how big Israel's, so to say, appetite for direct engagement with Iran will be, and how strong the support will be from Western and regional powers in dealing with Iran. I think that yesterday's attack on Israel is an example for everybody around the world to see, in Asia and in the West, that Iran is a rogue, dangerous, and aggressive regime that fires missiles, deadly missiles, the size of a school bus, 200 of them, at Israeli civilians, and that this is a regime that doesn't have the right to continue to operate as they do. And I think now is an opportunity for Israel, together with other freedom-loving democracies in the world, to change that.
But Jonathan Connicus, Iran's President Pezeshkian is warning Israel. If there is a retaliation, there will be a bigger retaliation, even a harsher punishment that will come from Iran. And in your appreciation, and since Israel studies Iran very closely, was this the best or the worst that Iran could do, or there's a lot more? Because there are reports that seem to suggest that they have a missile arsenal of over 3,000 ballistic missiles.
I think that the Islamic Republic of Iran are best in the world when it comes to sending others to fight for them, whether it's Palestinians, Syrians, Lebanese, or Yemenites. I don't think that they are very good. They don't excel at fighting themselves. So far, their 2 attempts to strike Israel have fallen very flat on their nose. The first time they got lucky and Israel didn't respond strongly against Iran because of American restraint. This time, they're not going to be so lucky, and Israel is going to retaliate. And when Israel sends its planes and missiles in the sky, they usually hit the intended targets. So I don't know what exactly additional capabilities Iran has. It's a big country with a big military, but I do know that Israel has the most advanced defensive and offensive capabilities capable of dealing with everything Iran throws our way.
Well, Israel has, as you very rightly pointed out, perhaps amongst the best air defense systems. You also have the US in the Mediterranean Sea helping Israel. But do you see more countries get involved in this? Now, the moment there's a direct strike from Israel to Iran, do you see other countries in the region perhaps getting involved?
There's definitely that possibility. I hope it doesn't happen, and I hope that there will be tacit and diplomatic support to Israel. But I think that we should try to avoid a regional and bigger conflict. But, to be honest, Israel has been attacked for about a year from 7 different fronts, all of them related to Iran. So this is really regional already at the lower intensity, but it still is a very regional issue. Missiles being fired by Houthis from Yemen and by Iranian proxies in Iraq and from Lebanon and Syria, from all of the different locations.
So clearly, by all account, it appears it's not if, but when Israel will strike and strike back, and will it lead to a major escalation in this conflict. Jonathan Connicus for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks, and we'll be tracking this story very closely from all angles to get you a 360-degree perspective.